Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Monterey Regional Waste Management Authority Board of Directors meeting. It is 9:01, and so I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, Ida.
Chair Shirley,
Here.
Vice Chair Delgado,
Here.
Director Blackwelder,
Here.
Director Askew, Director Peak,
Here.
Director Barber, Director Polito, here, Director Garcia Arizona, Director McKee.
Here.
We have a form.
All right, thank you. All right, please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to public communications. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. So anyone in the boardroom or anyone online? No? All right, I'll close public comments. Moving on to consent. Are there anything the directors would like to remove from consent? No? Would the public like to remove anything from the consent? Okay, bring it back to the directors. I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda items.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Second by Karen. All right, I guess no one's online, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. General Manager Communications.
No communications at this time, Chair.
All right, board communications? No, all right, I'll adjourn this meeting. Well done, everyone. Okay. We'll move on to,
I have a question.
yes,
As a relatively new member, tell me the purpose of that meeting.
so I'll turn this over to Felipe.
And I'll turn it over to Rob, and Rob can give the explanation of the authority meeting and its intent and purpose.
When the district decided to do some bond financing a few years ago, it's best to do it through a joint powers agency and the authority. So all the members of the district joined in a joint powers agreement, creating the authority for purposes, and it's the entity under which we have issued bonds. And so it has to have a meeting once a year. This is the annual meeting of the authority. We have other meetings as necessary, but they're usually are few and far between. But that it's a separate entity of the district that's present for the possibilities of financing.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I'll call the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for ReGen Monterey to call it to order. It is 9:04. Roll call, please.
Chair Shirley.
Here.
Vice Chair Delgado.
Here.
Director Blackwelder,
Here.
Director Askew, Director Peak,
Here.
Director Barber, Director Polito, here, Director Garcia Arizona, Director McKee.
Here.
We have a form.
All right, thank you, Ida. And we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, so we're going to skip that. We'll move on to public communications for this meeting. So anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Anyone in the boardroom or anyone online? Nope. All right, I'll close public communications. I'll move on to consent. So we have items 5A through 5E. Directors, is there anything you'd like to pull from the consent agenda? No. Okay, is there anyone in the public would like to remove anything from the consent? No. Okay, I'll bring it back to the directors. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Karen.
I think Jerry got me.
All right, Jerry, you approved?
Second.
Okay, Karen, second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move on to number 6. We have a public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider the approval of fiscal year 24-25 tip fee increases for gate rate items and changes to minimum fees effective August 1st, 2024. So these were sort of items that were missed in our last meeting that we had talked about raising our fees. And so this we'll conclude that. So I'll go ahead and I'll open up the public hearing. So if there's anyone from the public who would like to comment on these items. All right, seeing that, I'll come back and I'll close the public hearing. And we'll move on to discussion and action items 7A, which is to approve the fiscal year 24-25 tip fee increases for the gate rate items and changes to minimum fees stated in public hearing, which was item 6A, effective August 1st, 2024. Are there any questions about this? I don't know if the gentleman.
I'd like to ask the general manager, on the pricing, over the years, have we every annually, have we raised prices? Is this mainly a catch-up? Do you anticipate pricing on a regular basis going forward?
Yes, this year we evaluated the market, the price for some of these items here listed on item 6A. Had not been adjusted for several years. Thus, we were prompted by some of the staff to look at these items and compare them to other agencies. So we did a comparison with other agencies, and this is how we came up with the market number for our agency here today. So we don't anticipate it be annually, but we would look at the market to make sure that we are have the appropriate rate for those certain categories of special features that we offer here at the district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, I'll take it out to the public. Any public comments on this item? Probably not, since we just held the public hearing. All right, I'll bring it back. So I will take a motion on this item.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Bruce and Peter, thank you. All right, we'll vote. Anyone, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? No. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 7B, approve the memorandum of understanding MOU for the operating engineers local 303 for the support unit and for the operations unit effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I'd like to just do the introduction to Berta Torres. She's our Director of Human Resources. She's been a big point in the success of our negotiations. Helen Rodriguez, our Finance Director, myself, and also I can't forget our support who has done a really good job in bringing it all together. We have successfully negotiated and the union had ratified on their position, and Berta's here to give some updates on that item. So I'm extremely excited. Patrick Clark was our consultant that helped us through the process, and he brings a balanced feature to the bargaining position with the union and its members, and 4 months of negotiating and holding firm on some of our positions that the board has guided us to be at. We feel that it was extremely successful on both behalves, both the members and the organization itself. Thank you. At this time, Berta.
Thank you,
could you just
Felipe.
give us a quick update? That would be great.
Good morning, Chair Shirley, members of the board. As Felipe has mentioned, we're very pleased with having resolved the remaining contracts that were pending with the OE3 operations unit and the OE3 support unit. As you may recall, we had 3 labor contracts expiring on June 30th of this year. The first one was settled last month, or presented to you last month, which was a management unit. And the 2 remaining OE3 units have now been settled with a 5-year term contract. And some of the major highlights of the new agreement include implementation of the compensation study that you received a couple months ago, which includes market rate adjustments for all the classifications that were found to be below the market median, holding or freezing the pay schedule of the classifications that were found to be 10% or more above the market median, and COLA adjustment based on the San Francisco CPI, which this year of April of every year, this year it was 3.8%. So the majority of the classifications that were found to be within the market median are would be receiving a 3.8% COLA this fiscal year, and then it will continue for the 5-year contract, based on the same CPI every year. A couple other items that are, slightly different than the previous contract, is the, cost share for health insurance. We've agreed to a 85% split. And eliminated some of the rate changes that were included in the previous contracts that required splitting the increases every year. So this is now more clear, more flat amount, 1585 going forward for the 5-year term. Health insurance. So in addition to the health insurance premium, based on input from board during our the guidance that we received from you, we have agreed to a health insurance opt-out option, which would pay eligible employees $250 per month if they can demonstrate that they have health insurance through another source that meets minimum essential coverage. So for those that have that, they would be eligible for $250 medical health insurance opt-out per month.
Per month.
Per month. Increase to the short-term, long-term, and well, actually just those two. Short-term, long-term disability, the coverage levels have been increased to account for higher wages. It's still the same percentage that an employee would receive if they are out on disability. 66.6% of their wages is what they would be eligible for. But we've increased the caps. The caps were a little bit lower, and that'll allow for everybody to receive the 66.6% of their income if they were out on disability, excuse me, either short-term or long-term.
Did you say 56 or 66?
66, it's 66.7%, so 2/3 of wages. No changes to vacation, any of the PTO accruals, they remain the same, 12-day sick, and then the vacation accrual varies based on longevity, the years of service. There are no changes there. We did make some policy changes. One of the policy changes is the exclusion of non-productive hours towards the weekly overtime count. So that policy has changed. In the past, non-productive hours or any PTO, vacation, sick, floating holidays would count towards the weekly total hours of 40, and that would push it into overtime. So that policy has now changed where it's only actual worked hours that will count towards overtime. Attendance policy amendment, that has also changed. No change to the accrual or the amount of paid sick leave, which is 12 days a year, but how we manage attendance with that bucket of hours has now changed. And it changed, we have 2 different policies for operations unit and everyone else. But they're more, the policies are now gonna allow or encourage better management of your paid sick leave, and allow for managers and ReGen to address attendance issues earlier than we had the ability to do in the past.
Could you elaborate just a little bit more about that? Is
Sure. So the previous policy, or the policy until this is approved by the board, is employees we receive 12 days of paid sick leave per year. As you know, California regulations require a minimum of 5 days paid sick leave. So ReGen's paid sick leave benefit was much more rich than what's required by law. And that has been the policy for many years. And so in order for management to address attendance issues, we had a policy that allowed for up to 12 days of call-offs in a year. And there was reason to believe that there was abuse of that paid sick leave. It was, in some cases, seemed to be used more as another vacation bucket. And so the intent is you do have these 12 days of paid sick leave, which you should use for doctor's appointments when you're scheduling them, and for those life unexpected events. But 12 life unexpected events was excessive and it was a recurring issue for about a dozen employees. Because the policy allowed or set the threshold of what's acceptable attendance to 12 call-offs in a year, it made it very difficult for management to address those few employees who were regularly calling off up to 12 days or right up to the threshold every year, and it was on a rolling 12-month period. Now, the threshold of what's acceptable is 7 days. So for those life unexpected events that you can't plan for, 7 days calling out is manageable. And after if you're calling out more than that, then disciplinary process begins. 5 days are protected by law. And so ReGen's policy allows for 2 additional days. And we want employees to accrue the paid sick time because we have had a number of situations where an employee is out because of, because of serious medical reasons, and they don't have any time because they've been using it all along. So with the only way that we have of tracking and managing attendance is by coding the time off as scheduled versus unscheduled. So any time off that's scheduled, it doesn't count towards their attendance record. It's the unscheduled time that counts towards the employee's attendance record. And that's what changed from the threshold of 96 hours in a rolling 12-month period to 56 hours in a rolling 12-month period. But if they're scheduling it, it's not an issue. It's when it's unscheduled.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And so that's pretty much the changes that have been agreed to on both sides for both the OE3 operations unit and the support unit. There are a few other variations that, they're a little bit different. Education benefit, for example, provides a little bit more flexibility for the support unit because that's what they wanted than it does for operations unit. It's the same benefit amount, but we did make a concession, agree to make it a little bit more flexible in how employees utilize that benefit. But other than that, tool allowance for the other unit. So the positions that receive or the mechanics primarily who receive a $1,200 per year tool allowance. We've agreed to increase that amount by the same amount as the COLA. So whatever COLA pay increase is awarded that fiscal year, that same percentage would be applied towards their $1,200 annual tool allowance for the mechanics. And as far as the holding or the freezing of the pay schedules for those classifications that were above market, this does not apply to the hard to fill or those specialty roles, which are all of the mechanics or technicians and engineers. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
How did you do it?
Over a 4-month period, meetings and meetings.
It's really quite remarkable, I think, to have the 5-year term. And I just say kudos to the negotiation team because it's not easy. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. And there, that we had really good representatives on the other side of the table this year I think it really makes a difference when they're sharing and communicating the the discussions that are happening at the table, which I think is an improvement than, from previous years where very little information was, rolled out. So the more people are aware, I think that helps.
Great. Any other?
I'd just like to add some appreciation to the employees that were the stewards. We have Eric Palmer, we have Kristen O'Hara as well in here. We also had Regina from our Murph facility that does support. We had Tim Hinley, we had Leo,
Erica?
Erica Espinoza. We also had Jeff from the shop. So we've had a lot more steward engagement over the last couple of years, and I think that is appreciated from the workforce to have all the data and all the information real time as the negotiations are going on. So that really brought us really close. And I think the alignment from top to bottom, bottom to top is having internal alignment is in the process with our organization. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of graciousness for the types of jobs that we have here. And then there's a lot of respect for one another. So I think that was the formula. And then just knowing what we wanted to try to achieve during the process. I think some of the big wins, as Bert had mentioned, I think one of them was also the holiday requirement to show up to your scheduled day before, your day after, in order to get the holiday pay. And that really just reinforces that we want to have full teams when we're going to be short scheduled or it's a holiday, or we have more mass volume coming in. So we want to really hold people accountable to scheduling time off. That was a really direct message. The other was to try to make sure that we kept people within market. And that was, I think, the hardest challenge. You had people that were above market. You had about 79% of the people that were within market. That was really great start for us. But if we didn't do anything, we're gonna see that market area start expanding outwards, which makes it more challenging when it comes to the economics and the negotiation. And then you have the folks that are under market that we want to do the right thing for. And it was, it was a little bit of Tetris where you had to move things around to make it happen. But ultimately, we come up with a formula that will control the market, people that are going way ahead, bringing people up. And I have a good expectation as we approach the next market review that we'll have a pathway to resolve maybe sooner. And be able to just really focus on the operation. So a 5-year term is going to allow us to do that, is not have deviation from, opportunities in the operation that are going on that sometimes get deferred out because we're right in the middle of negotiations. So I'm really happy with the 5-year term. The next agreement that's coming up is the Allies unit, which will come next year. So that'll make it 3 years for me that we've been bargaining since I've been here. But then it'll give us a break to continue to focus on what's in the future for us, what's in the innovation, the challenges that we have ahead of us maybe in the next 5 years, and what are the opportunities to get us out of that. So I'm really grateful for everybody that participated and very grateful for the board that we have to support taking care of our employees, and really focusing on, the culture, what the expectation is for them, what it is for us as the leaders. Has been very well communicated and demonstrated from this board to the directors and from the directors to the employees, and it's been well received. So we appreciate the support that the board has given us. That's been ongoing for me since my arrival here at ReGen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes.
The comment I'd like to make is tagging on to what Felipe just mentioned, the word culture. And what I'm thinking of is he came up and staff came up with some very reasonable adjustments that weren't popular with employees because they had some benefits that didn't really make sense for the organization, but made sense for the person in their daily lives. And I think by this process, the example being set is if something isn't right or fair, we need to work together on it. And that message is wonderful because it goes both ways. And so I really appreciate the changes that have been made and the fact that collaboratively those changes were concluded, without having to go to any kind of formal dispute process. So great job for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was gonna mention the idea of culture. I feel like as with you getting here, Felipe, we have been doing labor negotiations every year. And they are going well. And so I really want to thank all of you for your dedication to both the organization and to the employees. Right? We're here for both entities. And so working together. And this shows what can be done when we can work together. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, I'll take this out for public comment. Any public comments? Nope. Okay, great. I'll bring it back to the board. And without further discussion, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
Karen, thank you for the motion.
Second.
Bruce, thank you for the second. No further discussion. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, it's unanimous. All right, great, thank you. All right, 7C, we're moving on to approve the pay schedules for the operating engineers local 3083 support unit, operations unit, and unrepresented positions effective July 1st, 2024.
All right.
Sorry.
Go ahead. All right.
Go ahead, Ms. Berta. Thank you for waiting patiently there.
You're welcome. So the item before you is now approval of the updated or revised pay schedules, which are reflective from the MOUs that you just approved for the current fiscal year. And what we asked that the pay adjustments be approved retroactive to July 1st. We did settle with the union, and the agreements were ratified on July 2nd. The board had provided guidance to management to that there would be no retro if we could not settle by the end of the June 30th contract. But we asked a little bit of leeway, the 2 days to for approval of the pay increases effective July 1. And the pay increases that you see on the pay schedules are based on the implementation of the comp study.
Okay, thank you, Berta. Any questions?
Just a comment, another example of kind of give and take. We told them no retro. But to get a deal, carrot and stick, whatever you want to call it, we went retro a little tiny bit, so we were reasonable. But the culture of expectation, we're gonna be reasonable, again, is exemplified here. Thank you.
And I appreciate the comments, Mayor Delgado. We did have tentative agreements for the ops unit on the 30th, and they needed to gather their teams and go out and talk to people and get their vote counts. The support unit asked for the 1 day, and we felt the same reason. They had some people that were out of the office. They wanted to make sure they communicated to everything. I thought it was very reasonable. And we also set the expectation that we were not going to go any further than that point at that time. So definitely give and take, and we appreciate the support of the board again. Thank you.
Good job.
All right, great. All right, so I'll take this out for public comments. Any public comments? Nope. Okay. I will bring it back to the board for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Karen.
Second.
Second, thank you, Bruce. All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Berta. Appreciate all your work on
Thank you.
this.
Yes, thank you, Berta. Very clear and concise.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to 7D, receive the white paper. A high-level summary for municipal solid waste practices in California and of the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, DBA, ReGen Monterey, County, California.
Thank you, Chair. We've been working, I'll do an introduction. We'll have Guy Board walk us through the item as well. We started this item, I want to say 18 months ago, where we collaborated as a board and as staff to really start getting the detail and the history of how we come to our current state of our operation, receiving external tons from non-member agencies, the volume that we get from member agencies, the volumes that we get in contracts as well. We started with the initial draft. It had components of how we conduct our business here in California that I thought was it was broad, but it was foundational to, there is gonna be areas and cities and towns and municipalities that may not have infrastructure that seek for that business to go somewhere. And if you look at the country, it also carries that same infrastructure of You have certain states that may deliver their entirety of their mass to another state because they have a facility that can manage it. And then we came back to the board on several occasions, seek guidance and feedback. We wanted more detail about ReGen. We started in a secondary chapter where we gathered information on decisions that were made throughout history by the board to get us to the current state. And then we added another chapter where we wanted to see what were the impacts of what we were doing today and what was the life of our landfill. Mainly to give us a consensus among the board with our constituents to deliver the same message unilaterally to its members, to its constituents, that we can all agree on, that depicted the decisions along the way to get us to where we're at, and so that we can give like responses to our constituents. I think we have achieved that. But throughout the process, we also heard, we left it open for the board to continue to give us messages. There will be 2 items that are delivered today that I think we should hear. And we can continue to move through that process. So at this point, I'm gonna hand it over to Guy, if you want to take us in. Anything that you'd like to add, and then we can discuss the item.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Shirley and Board of Directors. Real quick, it's just an update about the document itself between the last board meeting and today's board meeting. It's essentially a very similar document that you received in the prior board meeting. There's maybe a dozen areas where there was some word replacements that kind of make a little easier read in those specific locations, and minor format and kind of information flow, very, very minor. That's the extent of the changes, and so it's essentially the document that says the same thing as was in prior months. So some of you have indicated your satisfaction with that, and so today's agenda item is really for the board's discussion about the paper.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Comments on this, discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Petchborg and the staff for putting this together. This is a wonderful document, and thought it was in the works for more than 18 months. I don't know. I feel like I've been anxious to see this for quite a while. And aside from all the work and the depth of knowledge that's in this report, to me, the real benefit starts now, and using this as a launching point for a discussion of where the district is going in the future. And so this sets the foundation for a common understanding between district management and the board. And now we have to look forward and look at we have a guideline for out of district materials that's 17 years old. And then we have policies that are also old. Let's relook at that and figure out what direction the district needs to focus on. So I'm looking forward to that discussion with the cooperation management and the board will be set us up for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I agree with everything Mary Peak said. And at the same time, I think that this document has a major opportunity that has not been met. It's good for people like us when it comes time to delve into the nitty-gritty and have the history. It's not good if you're an 8th grade reader level or you're a member of the public and you care about customer rates, you care about landfill life, and you don't like the idea that we're taking in extra garbage from outside sources. And that was the original intention of this paper. To get to, in this paper, the question of why do we take out external garbage? Why do we take in? The public is going to be completely lost with this document. They're going to look at this title high level of municipal solid waste management practices in California, and they're just gonna, they're gone, they're not gonna be there. So if we want the public to be interested in reading this document, which we should, then it needs to be written in the modern era in a way that encourages them to want to read it because it's relevant to their life. If they read this title, it's not relevant to their life. If they look at the table of contents and they're looking for landfill life, customer rates, or external garbage, they're gonna find a table of contents that talks about summary of municipal waste management, summary of business practices, effects of ReGen's business practices. An 8th grade person or 8th grade reading level, a person on the street, they're gonna drop this document. It's gonna sit on the shelf and not be read by the public. But it's so full of great information that they should be interested in reading it. And I am not an editor, but I've edited a lot of documents in my profession. And each time I edit this document, I come up with many mistakes. And fortunately, when they're communicated to staff, they're fixed. This time around, I was only able to edit the first few pages and I found many mistakes and staff has fixed those. Here's an example. This is a sentence in the executive summary. Here's how it reads. That there are a relatively small number of city or county-owned solid waste facilities has occurred over decades as the result of the purposeful privatization trend to achieve ongoing infrastructure development, private capitalization capacity, I, efficiency of operation with economies of scale and lower rates relatively speaking, in parentheses, more customers than any one inclusive community basis, period. Completely lost in what that sentence means. And I think staff has done a good job at this, but they're probably not editors either. And so, one, I would ask that this be delivered to an editor to give us back a fresh copy that an editor who's professional thinks it's ready for public review. But B, the main purpose that Felipe just focused on when he introduced this is completely diluted. He said, explanation of receiving external tons, landfill life, and customer rates. That's what it's all about. But you won't find this in this document unless you're really eager to find it. And you go through all the governmentese and you get those paragraphs that are relevant to that question. But that language is not on the table of contents, it's not in the title, it's buried in the document, it's full of good information. But how many people in the public have the ability or the interest to wade through this kind of document to find those specifics? And so I've asked for an MS Word copy because I know that if this gets approved today, what I'm going to be reduced to is cutting and pasting sections of this, making it legible to the reader. So when I get a complaint about rates or whatever, taking in municipal garbage, I'm going to give them a worked piece of this document because this document I can't provide them. Or I'm going to be saying, go to page 73, paragraph 3 to get your answer. And that's not good enough, I don't think. So it's a really good document, but I do think it's a missed opportunity. It could be a great, excellent document. And I think that ReGen Monterey is better than this document, but this document is very good.
I have a couple things I'd like to say. Bruce, thank you for your comments. And I know that your comments has made this a better document down the road. You've put a lot of time and effort into this. So I want to thank you for that. I think there's a couple things here. First, just grammatically, that's great. I think working on that is a good idea. I think it's also a good discussion for the board to have about are we in agreement that this document is for the public in terms of how they're learning about what we do here. I feel like I'm guessing some of our constituents aren't going to go to that document and read it. I think if we had some alternative source of information, even a quick summary, something that they could go to our website and sort of, it's like the the edited version of it, like what you feel like you want to create for your residents. Maybe that's something that we need to have that doesn't give as much detail. What I see this document as being is something that it's really for the board members. It's for us to understand what we're doing here so that we can make these difficult decisions moving forward. And so I see this as a document, again, with all this detail, as being something that board members should use. Again, if we're looking for something that's accessible to the public, I'm not sure if people are gonna go for that white paper. If someone wants to read the white paper, if they're genuinely interested in that, then they'll get through that. And then come to us with questions. If we're looking for the general public and what they wanna, understand about our practices, maybe it's something, it's not a white paper, maybe it's a link, maybe it's something on the website that could be a little bit more reader friendly, that they can understand why we're making the decisions we're making and why we're taking in the waste that we are.
I tend to agree. This is, I feel, an internal document, not necessarily unless someone really requests it, but, I don't want to sound pejorative, but over the many years with technical advancements, with advancements in line, with how do you make a speech, et cetera, there've been many, many published things like, something for dummies. And that's I don't want to use that pejorative word, but a synopsis of this that would be suitable for the general public would probably be a positive thing, simple explanations of why and where. If we're going to use that for the public, could be beneficial, but I do agree that I think this is to get us all on the same page and understanding so that we're not misinforming the public or misunderstanding ourselves. So if there could be a synopsis that would be for the public, just to glean the most important parts of why we take in from other places, the landfill life, the expectations and so on, I think that would be a wonderful addition for us to use with our constituents.
Yeah, Peter.
I think we can use the document for a couple of years, live with it, understand it, modify it, and at some point in time, share it. But I think it's a working document. And there are probably some undoubted changes and modifications that as it matures.
Anyone else? Bill?
This agenda item is received the report, right?
And discussion about thumbs up or thumbs no, should we receive the report?
Well, I think on that point, there is obviously differences of opinion. But once a report is provided to the public or, a board, commission, council, you can't unring that bell. It's been received. We're not approving the report. We're receiving the information. So I think that's where we're at. It's not a vote. Yeah, and I'm obviously, my outlook is that we're not directing further work on this. And I respectfully seem to disagree with Mayor Delgado with that more work is needed in this. I think we're good.
Jerry, any thoughts?
There's been a lot of documents that have been approved and then addendum. Wouldn't that be the same? I look at this more of a living document and things are gonna change as we go forward. So that's why, and I like the idea of, having a synopsis that's, down to my 8th grade level so that I can understand what the heck it's all about. I think that's a good idea, but yeah, understanding that things will change. And my other question is, it says municipal solid waste practices in California. Does California have any type of idea? They should be leaders, I would think, in this, because California, to look at California and to see what the potential is, because it's falling apart, just like it did in New York. And New York's like,
don't know what we're gonna do with this stuff. And so, you know, I think that's a problem. Managing our waste is a big global problem. So I think this is a good start for us, but I don't think it's the end of that. That's just how I see it.
So I think that a standard could be that it's a grammatically correct document. That's not a very radical idea. And I don't think we're there yet. So if it's a living document, a working document, then let's work it to make it at least pass, you know, grammar check, or have a professional editor read it and make suggestions like, these are the purposes, here's the product, here's how it's written. What does a professional say? Doesn't have to take any staff time. Might cost a couple $1,000s to review the document and make it grammatically correct. But it seems to me like a pretty non-radical request to expect our documents to be that.
I agree that there's probably some grammatical things that could be fixed. You wanna chime in? General Manager?
Sure, I don't think the requests are extraordinary. I think that we can receive the document as is today. I think I can come back with staff options to either both the personnel and the finance committee and see if there is a broader view of everyone wanting to move this along to get it edited through an editor. I don't think it would take too much staff time just to look into it, but we can come back with what that result is. I would recommend we receive the draft today. There's been a lot of effort and time put into it. I think it gives basis for discussions with constituents. It gives basis of discussion with our directors as well. And I think it's a fair request for us to look at a professional looking at what we have authored here as staff. And then if there is a result that we can render and then bring back to the board, so the board can make a decision together on whether we pursue further or not at that time. Today is a date to receive the report as written, and then we can come back and give some options of how much further do we want to go together as a board.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. Jim?
Yeah, my recollection of it was when you get a new member that comes here and they're just confused by what's going on.
Mhm.
So the intent of this is really to give you a context how we got here.
Mhm.
And to probably put that in the little packet that you hand out.
Yeah.
With also your home phone number so they can call you. With any questions. I think that was
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, well, at this time, I'll take it out for public comment. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? On the board or online? No, bring it back. Okay, any further discussion on this? Okay, all right, so we are just receiving this. There's no vote. Right? Okay, so I'll conclude this agenda
Question.
item.
Do
Yes.
we plan to publish this locally, so we each have a copy we can take home as a cover on it and so forth?
So the question was asked if we would be willing to post this on to our website, and the response would be yes, that we could post it to the website. I will seek a little bit of guidance from the board now, if you guys wouldn't mind just discussing how soon we would like to publish this online if we have a desire to bring it back to the committees for further discussion. At this point, I take a little bit of guidance from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't feel like it has to be published right away,
Yep.
Especially if there's maybe some.
I'm not looking for public, I'm just looking for a hard copy.
We will get you a copy, Director.
I think, again, it's a document we've seen, we're the ones who needed that information. I'm okay with holding off on creating a link on our website for this document until we feel like maybe we.
We'll get you
some
the
of
final cut that we have today, and then we will work forward with staff to bring something back to the board. Yes.
Any additional thoughts on this?
Well, eventually it should be absolutely on the website.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, Does that help?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Chair.
Sure. All right, we'll move on to 7E, authorize general manager to approve up to 450,000 in expenditures for the revised scale house and public restroom improvement projects.
I thank you, Chair. Long awaited. I think when I first arrived here 2.5 years ago, we had a project in place to do repairs to the scale house, increase the amount of workstations. We also went down the track to put it out for a bid process. We received the bids and then we staff made recommendation to reject the bids because of the extraordinary high cost. Staff came back, worked through some potential opportunities for us to pursue to get our scale house completed and for it to be completed under the expected budget amount that we perceived to be the amount that we wanted to be in when we rejected the account. So we have David Ramirez, he's going to give us an update on the scale house and also the public restroom project that's in play. Thank you.
Morning, Chair Shirley and members of the Board of Directors. I'm David Ramirez. I am the incoming Director of Engineering and Compliance, and I'm happy to tag on to what Felipe mentioned about the project, kind of explain what I'm going to tell you now. The project, if I get this thing to switch over. Project summary. So in June of 2023, we came to the board with a bid package that had gone out to public bid and was going to be was available for the board to execute on the project. Staff recommended to the board to reject that bid because it was extremely high compared to what we had anticipated for the project. And we thought we could get more value out of something with a modified scope. So staff repackaged the project, and today we're here to ask for a authorization to move forward with that package, both in design and budget. And here's a quick summary of the differences in the project. So the old project scope was anticipated to, or was going to increase the square footage of the scale house by 80 square feet. It was going to remodel the convenience restroom inside of the scale house. So there's two restrooms we're talking about right now. One is inside of the scale house and another one is a public bathroom that's outside and for the customers. So this item is remodel the convenience bathroom, which is inside the scale house. We're going to do an internal refresh, paint, floors, fixtures, etc. We're going to do site improvements to add some ADA accessible ramps. We were going to replace the public restrooms I mentioned, and that was going to all cost $1,200,000. We didn't see the value in bringing that project to the board to approve. So staff went back, recalculated what we really needed in the project, and came up with this new project scope, which included no expansion of the building. We're staying within the existing footprint or shell, if you will, of the building. So there's no additional floor space added. But we did remove the convenience restroom that's inside of the scale house. And I can go into that a little bit more. We're still doing the internal refresh, paint and flooring and fixtures. We're still going to do the ADA ramps, and we're still going to replace the public restrooms. And we expect that cost to be around $450,000, which is the authorization amount we're asking for today. The public restroom scope of work was to change from two separate bathrooms, a men's and a women's restroom, and turn them into one large ADA accessible unisex restroom out in the front. Oops, not sure why that's floating out there, but this was the old project scope, and these are floor plans looking from the top. Existing floor plan is on the left, and you can see that there's this U shape here, kind of configuration. And then this is the convenience restroom. It's very small, it's cramped, and we were planning to keep it in the old project scope. And this red line represents where the wall was initially, and we were going to add the 80 square feet out towards the east and give staff more more frontage space on the building and also some sidewalls. This is the old plan. And on the second floor, here's the existing second floor. On the second floor, we were gonna add a small break room, and we were gonna have some large exterior stairs outside instead of the interior stairs. And this was gonna cost $1.2 million. We didn't really see the value in that. The new project scope, here's the existing floor plan, which you saw on the previous slides. And this is the staff service windows. On the left hand and on the right hand side, you have the new floor plan, which removes the internal convenience restroom. And then there's a door here, which we removed to give the staff more space for office furniture and storage, document retention, etc. And we still have the same number of service windows in the new scope. And then for the second floor, we made a concession of this not being a break room on the second floor. The stairs up to the second floor were changed from an external staircase to an indoor pull down ladder, more like an attic. So the second floor is going to become more like an attic space where we can store materials. But if you look in the previous configuration on the left, you see that their stairs are right in the middle. There was it's called a ship's ladder. It's a very steep staircase that's right behind the staff. And to make that work, we're gonna do a pull down attic kind of access to the second floor. Any questions on that scope before I go on? Seeing none. So that's the scope of work that we anticipate building or that we're planning to build. And we're asking today for the board to authorize the scope of $450,000. And also a keynote here is that we are going to be doing the general contracting on this. So we will be coordinating all the various trade contractors. So we're going to hire our own electrician, our own mechanical, our own carpenter, because the board authorized us to hire on a new construction manager on staff. So that person is well versed in construction management and can coordinate these things, and that will allow us to do these smaller scopes of work that are going to be under the general manager's authorization authority of $75,000, and we can piece the project together to get it accomplished at this price.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned you're going to one ADA unisex bathroom.
Correct.
Will that involve both a toilet and a urinal? Because I know that's kind of a necessity.
Yeah, so because we're taking the two spaces, a men's and a women's, and converting it into one, there's actually a lot of space in there to have exactly what you're asking for, the toilet and the urinal. And so this aesthetic will be more like a rest stop, so that it's easy to clean and easy to keep maintained, and it'll be what you're asking for, but it'll be unisex.
Yes, that's fine, but I just think it's imperative to have a toilet. and a
Understood.
urinal.
Appreciate the comment.
Bill,
Thank you very much. Really like the fact that when it came out, it sounds like, people, I have a friend that remodeling their house, and of course, the grand plans were great, and then went out and found the price tag and said, whoa, I need to shrink it to fit within a reasonable cost. So kudos to staff to recognizing that. Now, my question, just to be really clear, under the $75,000 general manager approval, that's the expenditure approval, and that's within the
Within the 450, yeah. So that's why we're coming to you in this way. It's the total project budget is 450, but we're going to be accomplishing in smaller that are below that number. Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? But what, thank you, David, for this presentation. What's the time frame for finishing this?
With the authorization, we have, we've done the preliminary work of getting the plans and specifications together, which are ready to go to the building department. We hope to get started within the next month.
Oh, great.
And I really want to send a thank you to the Scale staff. They've been waiting for this project for a number of years. And they really had, it was difficult to deliver the message that we were not going to be doing the construction project that we had been planning to do, and we had to pull it back to come to do some redesign. So they're an awesome team. They're the face of ReGen. And I'm really proud to bring this finally to them, and they've been really patient with us. So I appreciate their efforts as well.
I'm assuming they've seen these plans?
They've seen and they're excited about it
Oh, good.
as well. Yeah.
Can you
So
tell me-
They
can you tell
really
me-
want the extra space, because as you saw, it was like a U-shaped kind of work area.
Right.
And so they were constantly bumping into each other. And so
Uh,
that restroom, while it was convenient, it really was in the way of their day-to-day function.
Yeah.
And with the number of staff that they have in there now to accommodate our traffic, it was getting to be really difficult to work in there.
And I think in the staff report, it mentions that because there is more staff, they'll be able to take breaks and use the restroom
Yes,
in the
yeah.
administration building.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have another question.
Sure.
Does this accommodate lockers or any place for personal belongings for the people that work there? Or how do they store their purse or their briefcase or whatever they?
It's going to improve it. So right now, the layout of the scale house is very crammed and congested, like I mentioned. They're really, real estate in there is difficult to come by. So they're stacking vertically. But there's a lot of cabinetry and cubby holes. With this, they're gonna have more space to walk around, more wall space. Because like I mentioned, we're taking out that door. If I go back to here. So this, on the left-hand side, there's counters all the way around this edge. And so we plan to have this whole wall available for the storage.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank staff for being so fiscally prudent, but also being creative. Recognizing when you saw that big bid come in and you realized you weren't going to be able to do it. I mean, coming back and finding a solution, I think is brilliant. I know it's a lot of extra work on all of you to try and come up with this solution, and you've done a great job. So, thank you.
Just like to comment, I'd like to thank Guy and David. Really appreciate them. The board support again, comes back to board support. We went out and hired a project manager. We went out and test run a handyman on site that this was his forte. And we're already reaping the benefits. This is a significant benefit now, but we've seen them across the pathway as we started venturing into these new positions. So these positions have been extremely fiscally responsible for us to do. At the time of hiring, it sounds like we're gonna add more headcount, but the service that they're bringing to us, the amount of savings that we're gonna see in this one project, we look forward to continuing to see that sort of effort amongst the team. At this point, Director Petroborg has some comments as well.
If I may, just a couple comments to piggyback on what you just said, and to recognize there's a $750,000 reduction in the proposed expenditures. So that's roughly 40% of what the prior option was. So I think that's definitely, with your support on the internal alignment. Having project management internally we can act as a general contractor. That a delivery model is being proposed here. So the ReGen's acting as a general manager. We're going to issue subcontracts to different trades. They happen to all be below the general manager's authorization request. Yet staff feels it's required to bring this as a whole project and get the budget approval. As opposed to allowing the general manager to separately authorize scopes of work for one project that cumulatively are greater than a $75,000 authorization limit. So, I appreciate the board's recognition of the delivery method and why we are seeking the budget approval in this manner.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take this out for public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Either from the board or online? No, bringing it back.
Move approval.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bruce. Second for Karen. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, probably up next, 7F receive model, module 7, phase 3 project update and cost report.
I'm actually trying to tee it up for Guy, so.
So, when we address 7F, we have, Guy Petchford, he's gonna do the introduction to the item. And then when we get to 7G, we'll have, David give a presentation as well on some of the service changes that were requested along the way. At this point, we have Director Petchford.
Good morning again. So this item is a presentation to bring the board up to date of where phase 3 currently stands. And then the following item is a request for approval of a change order to take us through completion of the project. I will venture a little bit outside of just phase 3. I want to also give a context for the whole project. So I'll launch into that and
Try clicking it out.
a couple of clicks to bring up some animation.
You'd be able to use mouse.
Here's us. Go. So the little red location dot there is where we are in the administration building. The green highlighted area is the existing built landfill modules 1 through 6. And we're here to talk about module 7, mostly about the current phase 3. But I'll also do a summary of all the phases during the presentation. That red arrow pointing to module 7 is about the direction of the subsurface groundwater flow. And if you look at that yellow highlighted area of module 7, there's a little, looks like a leg with a foot. The foot's on the left. And the left side of the foot, there is water entering the yellow area. And also just below the MRF, from the north side, there's water entering the yellow area, as well as from the south side, from the M1W side of the cell, there's water entering the project area there in yellow.
Surface water, groundwater?
Subsurface water at several different levels, no less. The upper ones that are above the baseline are not very productive. They don't have much quantity to it. But the aquifer down close to final grades is fairly active, continuously active. It's one that was encountered for modules 4 and 6 there on the left side of the green. between, to the right of the MRF. Those are lined areas, and there's certainly historic evidence that those module constructions required some control of subsurface water. That control was rather minimal. There wasn't much effort necessary to control it. That's not the case with module 7, because the water is now being countered on two major sides. That's in addition to the small north side area that was similar to modules 4 and 6. This is a cross section of across that plan view that we just looked at. There, module 7 on the right. The top area is about elevation 70. That's being referred to as the initial capacity area. You can see module 7 is a bit larger than module 6, and they both are built or will fill over the existing landfill. 50 years from now, there'll be a staff presenting to the board, reaching these upper fills. As we mentioned in the white paper, there's prediction of over 100 years of remaining capacity. And this is an illustration of where that capacity would be.
Where in relationship to this drawing would the sub-level water be at?
It's going to be kind of below this lettering,
So you're gonna have to make
but
modifications to get obviously that water lower.
yes, we'll talk about that's the most productive one. There's a couple minor ones that are up in this profile up here on the right at a couple levels. They really just express themselves with a little greener vegetation and no free water, basically a moist area, but really no free water is observed, while the lower one, it's running water constantly. Quick comparison of module 6, which is has some partial fill in it and will continue to be filled. It is about 14 acres in size compared to module 7 at 17 acres. There's about 1.2 million tons initially in module 6, and then another 1.95 million tons predicted for adding module 7. We expect to be filling for 3 to 4 years in module 7 before we start filling module 8. And the associated revenue is about $100 million for that initial filling. Some other stats for module 7. There's your 17 acres, the 1.95 million tons as the initial capacity up to 170-foot elevation. 2 to 3 years expected for to start module 8, and 3 to 4 years to begin filling in module 8. Again, the initial estimated revenues for that initial capacity is about 100 million. And it's the first time that the liner system was not the prescriptive liner system. Module 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all lined landfill areas using the single composite prescriptive liner system, which is a single 60 mil geomembrane plastic liner over 2 feet of compacted low permeability material, often called clay. That's the prescriptive liner in the regulation. The regulation also allows proposals for alternate liners. And that's what ReGen did primarily for module 7 because of the lack of available clay. That's a natural material. It's not really available to be mined to any great extent on site. And so it would be a material that would have to be purchased and brought into site and be of significant quantity to build that layer. And that's really not practically feasible anymore because of the lack of borrow sources for those type of materials. So the engineered alternative is going to be beneficial to long-term development of the remaining part of the landfill. We don't have a estimate today of what the dollar benefit is, but it's in tens of millions of dollars that'll be avoided in the use of the prescriptive liner system. This is a slide that compares the two. You'll see the alternate on the left has 3 different liner membranes. You know, as opposed to the one on the prescriptive. In addition, between 2 of those geomembrane liners, there's a geosynthetic clay liner called a GCL. It's basically a refined processed clay that's in a mat about that thick. And it's equivalent and actually has been tested to be more resistance to leakage than the 2 feet of clay. So just to give you an idea, you got something that's less than a ½ inch, in thickness, and is performing more than the 2 feet of clay. So it's a much improved liner system from a barrier standpoint for environmental protection. And the water board recognizes that and given approval to its use. So we see it being very beneficial, especially for the module 9, which is likely going to be the furthest one on the east, which will likely require a leachate sump below the groundwater level. And this liner system will be sufficient to create the required separation that the regulations require. So this is construction year 3. Of by contract or by actual physical work. So I'll be introducing a phase 0 that preceded phases 1, 2, and 3, but this is phase 3. So 3rd construction year. This is a view of how on the left is how the area looked just after the protective rain cover was removed. And it's hard to see, but there is along the water channel, on the right side of the water channel, there's a lot of there's erosion sediment between the water and that right slope. And there's also erosion features caused by that subsurface water coming out of that slope. And on the right is showing how those had to be addressed. The features had to be made in uniform shape. So there was a little excavation. That's where you see that little finger of rock going up the slope because that was a damaged area. And the damaged soil had to be removed. It's exposing the seep, and so the gravel and the filter fabric are the corrective measure to control the seep going forward. So it functions sufficiently underneath the liner system. Again, these are two different pictures. The one on the left is kind of the bottom of the foot, looking up towards the MRF. And the one on the right is at the heel of the foot, looking east towards module 6 and the landfill. And just showing you the extent of that subdrain system. It's probably twice as wide as it would have been had there been no damage to the subgrade soil by that seepage. So the part of this is corrective repair, and part of this is the designed perimeter subdrain that was part of the design plan.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
So that picture on the right, is most of that view shed inside module 7?
No, so you see the tanks here in the middle ground, that's already module 6. So module 6 is behind those tanks. Module 7 is here in the foreground, and to the very right side, you get a view of it going along that right side of the image.
And how tall will module 7 be?
It is about 90 feet just to get up to the road level by Monterey One water. But if you stood where those tanks are and went to the final grade, it is about 230 feet. What will be the final height above those tanks.
Yeah, so it's amazing that 230 feet high foreground built in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, to 107, yeah, the fill will be to about 140 feet of height at that time. And then the other, the whole top area needs the base developed first before you can build on the full top to the full height.
Makes me want to recycle more.
Makes me want to reuse more.
So during this season, this third season, there were observations that the water from that perimeter subdrain system was bypassing that perimeter subdrain system. So we called for an investigation to assess whether there was a subsurface flow bypassing the perimeter subdrain system, and these a couple photographs of our test investigation, and sure enough, there was water towards the east side of the leg of module 7 that was bypassing the subdrain. And so the decision was made to install 3 linear elements across the floor of the leg of module 7 and to act as subdrains to maintain from one side to the other side that the water stays at a depressed level and maintains the regulatory required separation between water and waste. So that's one of the major changes that happened, in addition to the major amount of work to correct the subgrade.
Just a quick question. I'm trying to visualize this. So you have water, you found water, and you're just trying to direct that water away from the liner, right? We want to keep that separate. So where does that water go?
It will go to the same general location of where the leachate will go, which is the low spot in module 7, which is right in this area here. Where those 2 pipes are sticking up, that's the low spot in module 7. And so there's a low spot below the lining system for the subdrain water, And then there's a low spot above the lining system for the water that's hit the waste, and it's
That's
called leachate. Yeah,
So you have the leachate and you have essentially aquifer water,
yes,
and do they meet?
they do not.
They do not meet,
They are required to be separated.
okay.
Um,
And so then where does that groundwater,
So they're gonna come to this low spot,
yeah,
subdrain below the liner, leachate above the liner.
uh-huh,
They're gonna each be separately pumped from the low spot and collected and controlled.
oh, what do we do with all the aquifer water?
Well, it is being permitted to be because it was a seepage, it was flowing to the river drainage. It's allowed to be discharged back to that river drainage with the stormwater.
Okay,
The leachate has to be maintained and controlled and maintained inside the landfill.
okay, yeah, that was gonna be my question about the leachate and how do we process that?
Yeah, currently that's the process for managing leachate is a recirculation into the line modules.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, Bill, question,
I thought there was an outstanding question or a possibility that wastewater would be transferred over to Monterey One Water in the future.
So, yes, there's been the district expressing to Monterey One Water the availability of our different waters. We, long term, I think there may need to be a leachate, just, treatment or destruction option. And so that's why we would want the leachate to go to the next door. They could potentially treat it and use it as one of their water sources. Certainly, they were also informed about the groundwater, which is of good quality, which would seem like it might be an advantageous material for them. And that's where it stands. We've proposed its availability and but no solutions have been brought forward.
So these two waste, queuing on the questions from Director Shirley. So these two streams of handling will come to the board in the future for discussion? Or is this too far out?
I think it's a little further out. What we have had is the engineer that was just recently hired at Monterey One Water come and tour the facility. We revisited the item. I had originally met with their CEO, Paul Schuto, regarding the same matter. He's now handed it off to the principal engineer to come and visit our facility to look at what are the opportunities with water. That is a mitigation in the landfill field area that we would want to resolve here in the next 3 to 5 years. To get water out of storage within the landfill footprint and either get it pipelined out to Monterey One Water or build an external basin to control the water that we retain and then have to have analyzed and then treated and then dispersed accordingly. So it is a little bit ways out. But we are going to entertain different options that we can support. The organization path is to remove the water being stored within the footprint of the fill area. Because we want to have a larger fill parameter without having to deal with water. We can build infrastructure now while we can afford it for the remainder segments of the landfill as we start looking at future fill and module areas.
I have a question. So if it's aquifer water, which normally you said would go to the river,
Mhm.
will there be environmental considerations about what we do with it, how it impacts the environmental areas around the river? If we were to siphon it off and send it over to Monterey One, would that impact the health of the river and near it, or will we have to look at that?
It may be part of, a CEQA review for that future project. It's in landfill development, it's required. The permit for the landfill has been approved. This is a known condition for that approval, and And the regulatory requirement for the landfill development is to control and manage the water. So, in the current management, design for the project is to collect and return that subdrain water to the river system.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And this is a photo of a view of the pipe, or the, over the filter fabric, the gravel above the pipe. And filter fabric's folded over the top of the gravel, and then it's covered by soil. So if you look kind of down into the photo, you see all those different phases of this subdrain line. And for Director Delgado's earlier question about the area of Module 7. Now this view is at the top of the leg, looking down Module 7 to the west and south at the foot. The MRF is up, upper right corner is the MRF. And so this is kind of a good view of the area of Module 7.
Imagining 170-foot elevation.
Yeah. And if I went way back to the yellow highlighted area, sorry. Oops. You know, that's what we're looking at from above. And then the other view that I just saw in the picture was from the side.
Since you're back at this map, can you tell me where module 8 would be?
Module 8 is going to be in the center area here to the right of Module 7. Where one of the existing stormwater ponds is. Kind of imagine a rectangle, maybe a little, rectangle that kind of comes down here along Module 5.
And where's module 6?
Module 6 is right in this area, the sliver just above Module 7.
Module 8 is gonna be physically much smaller than 7.
It'll won't be as long. It'll be a little more rectangle, a stub, rectangle stub. And then 9 will be the second stormwater pond area on the very east. And that's it's supposed to be the low spot of the landfill. From the master plan. However, when Module 5 got built, there was a change in the design that brought a low spot to Module 5. Not a convenient location if this is to remain inside the landfill. The leachate sumps are best located at the edge. So, Module 7's leachate is right there along the edge. Module 4 was also on the edge of this cell. That allows the extraction pipes to come up on top of structural, subgrade, and not be inside the waste. They're below the waste, and are at an angle, while an interior sump requires a vertical pipe, through the waste mass. And very rare that good things happen by doing that. Very rare. As waste settles, it settles non-uniformly, and that crushes pipes and crushes the sump at the bottom. It's just something to avoid. So for module 9, our goal is to intercept module 5 sump and drain that to a lower elevation. And eliminate the current temporary module 5 sump. Let me get back up to where we were and try to finish up here. This is the liner system, that alternate engineered liner system starting to be built. And we're probably 50% of the lining total lining progress so far. This is showing, the larger area, has some of those pieces of the alternate design present. More to go. And current state from an, aerial picture here. So, we'll jump into cost reporting out to you to kind of bring us up to date for where module 3 or phase 3 of module 7 currently stands. It began at phase 0 when the district decided to stop using its own employees to remove soil from the site. That soil is used in the landfill operations, but it's used at a small rate. And to accomplish excavation that's needed in these module areas, the district made the decision to solicit operating contracts to companies that specialize in excavation. And Don Chapin was the awarded party, and his contract calls for excavating minimum amounts of soil every year, much larger than the site employees were doing, significantly larger. And it was also combined with processing that excavation material for manufacturing construction products. Sand for specialty sands was one of the products. A general soil fill was another. And what that did for module 7, it avoided about $10 million or more of excavation costs. And at the same time of that avoided cost, the district gained a royalty on some of the materials excavated. So a pretty good head start for module 7. The first phase of module 7 was an excavation only phase. Don Chapin was bid on that phase and was the lowest qualified bidder. And part of that of his lower bid, it was, if I recall correctly, it was about 20 to 25% lower. So, you know, there $250,000 right there. In the lower bid, he was bidding it because there was still some of the sand that he was interested in, specialty sand for a specialty product. So he brought in a lower cost of excavation, and not showing here are the royalties that the district received as part of that effort. So there, this is showing only the cost at 1.7 million for that first phase excavation. Second phase excavation also came in at the savings by chance. There was a contractor who had equipment and people he wanted to use and didn't have a project to use them on. And so there was about a $400,000 difference between this contract and the engineer's estimate. And about $250,000 below the second lowest bid. So it was a good way to start that phase. We did issue some change orders for that phase. And one of the change orders was to continue excavating to bring the module 7 grades closer to the phase 3 elevation than was in the phase 2 work. So It was almost another 100,000 yards removed at this lower price, to advance some work on module 3. That, however, created a problem for module 3 because the bid documents did not reflect that change of grading to bring it to a lower level. So the bid documents described a field condition with about 5 feet of a pad over the subgrade level, and the actuals were closer to 2 feet or so. And that was closer to the water. That affected the type of equipment and the phasing that the contractor would use. And it was a result of the engineer bid documents not reflecting that final grade. Information that the engineer had was provided to by the district, and the district on the 2 occasions sought confirmation for that being present, and on both occasions was told it had been incorporated. Nonetheless, it wasn't, and that kicked the phase 3 into a design build delivery model. The contractor had to change his approach. That meant some time for him to acquire different equipment and associated with the type of excavation method. We were able to flex with him and put his equipment to some use on non-module 7 activities, and that became part of the change order. The effect of the change in excavation approach, the repair of the subdrain or the subgrade that was damaged by the subterranean water, the additional subdrains to control that subterranean water across the whole width of the area, because it has to be there for almost 200 years of function under that waste mass. That took the original contract from 7.6 million up to 11.3 million. Expenditures to date are about six out of that 11 have been spent, and we're showing here we're expecting to spend 6.8 this fiscal year, and the approved budget is at a $7.8 million level. So you'll hear a little bit more of the next change order in the next board report. But on the dais is a single page printout of the change orders that have occurred to date. It's also in the slide presentation here in 2 different slides, but on the dais as one single page if you prefer to look at that page. That describes the different change orders that have been issued to get us to today. So any questions?
Questions, Bruce?
Thank you. On page two of your slide presentation, it shows a schematic of the modules. And module 7 looks to be maybe twice as big as module 6, but it's really only 14 acres versus 17 acres. It's not that big a deal. So is it to scale?
It's certainly narrower in width, both top and bottom. Module 6 is narrower.
It looks almost twice as much in that prior description. Can you go back to that schematic?
Sure. Just look and see if there's a different illustration that
So,
might.
module 6 is almost half the size of module 7. And is that just because it's, the schematic's not to scale, not intending to be to scale?
Yeah, it's not exactly to scale.
Okay,
Yes.
that's.
It's a different altitude,
No,
flat.
they're essentially at the same elevation. They are draining in parallel.
No, same, that's fine.
Okay, my next question is on that 1/2 inch GCL layer. Can roots cause a problem if shrub roots penetrate it?
If it's used in a surface application, that's a possibility. This is a subsurface application, so there will be no vegetation growth in the baseliner system.
Oh, I thought I saw 2 feet somewhere. That's why I asked that. Okay,
Yeah, there, this is below the waist, so everything's gonna be buried.
well, we're talking tens of feet.
No, there's a, let me go to that section here, that cross section of the liner system. So you were referring to this
Those
most
2
likely.
feet,
Yeah, those 2 feet are what's providing a separation from the uppermost geomembrane layer as a protective cover over that geomembrane to protect it from being damaged. Waste is going to go on top of that cross section,
That's the operations layer?
on top of the operations
Top of the
layer.
operations.
Yes.
All right,
But just to answer your question fully, if you flip this liner system over and put it on top of the landfill, that's where there may long-term be vegetation exposure, because it's over the waste and it's exposed to the environment, while this is under the waste and it's not exposed.
got it. Thank you. Last question. Not what the cost is, but what's the ballpark cost of M1 water putting in infrastructure to receive our wastewater? Is it 10 million or 500,000?
No, it's millions. ReGen would likely have a storage area, either most likely in the form of tank storage, to where the water that is collected is temporarily stored and then transferred to M1W. So there's 10 to 20 million probably on the ReGen side. And well, maybe similar, maybe not quite as much on the M1W side. If they're able to take the water in as it's delivered, that shouldn't require much infrastructure upgrade.
So the 10 to 20 million, getting back to the white paper, does the white paper anticipate those kinds of sort of indirect costs to taking in new garbage?
No, it's not viewed as being relation to garbage. It's, other than the garbage that's in the landfill.
But the more garbage you have, the more garbage you take in, the more leachate you have, the more you need tanks and pipes and pumps.
No, there's one landfill that's been permitted, 315 acres in size, 260 feet tall. And that's what has to be designed for. It's not, it doesn't say anything about where the garbage comes from or how fast. The rate of receipt causes the rate of the expenditures. So there's a relationship there. But we kind of went through that in the white paper. It does show that part.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the report. So I'll freely admit, I'm a little lost on the big picture. Module 7, the total cost. Could you focus through what is the budget for module 7 and what is the authorized expenditures to date?
That's on this drawing.
So just, but it says just phase 3. I'm talking about all of it.
Yeah, I don't have that summary for you today.
Okay, so this module 7, it's $11 million in savings,
Oh, that was phase 0.
phase 0, right? Does that mean the budget, that we're still within the budget for module 7?
So,
Then I'm just,
well, if you applied that, it would almost erase all of the expenditures, but we haven't managed phase 0 as part of the budgeting phase,
okay,
because it was not a cost.
okay,
If you,
revenue side.
Yeah.
Cool. So, you're not asking for approval for this change order, this $3.8 million.
that's correct.
You
This is a
already have-
report.
You already have approval for this change order, this amount?
These were issued to the contractor as part of the design build delivery. And that was the current, using the current policy of the board approving the budget and the staff managing the contractor within budget.
Bill, I think this is our next, the change orders are the next agenda item.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and this, and
Okay,
even these
all
change
right,
orders
sorry, I'm
are
jumping
within the
ahead.
budget. No, that's okay. No, it's
All
all
right.
here. So
Just to, as we move to the next item, this upper group of information is bringing us to date from a contract expenditure commitment of that 11.3 million. Around 6 million have been spent. So the second group of information on the lower section is telling the board what we expect to spend this fiscal year. And so that 6.8 million of anticipated expenditure is also overlapping with the unspent part of 11 million. So the two are not additive, and you'll see that in the next presentation.
any other questions from the board? No? All right, I'll take it out to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Anything online? No? Bring it back. Yeah. Bill.
Yeah, one thought, so, from my past career, I realized that, you don't know what's underground until you drill or excavate. And so, looks like there's lessons learned here. And since we're gonna be going to modules 8, 9, 10, could you tell us, I'm assuming we need to institutionalize this knowledge about unexpected groundwater sources and factoring that into the design and so forth. Would you care to comment?
Sure, go ahead, Guy.
Well, there's an incoming director of engineering to institutionalize that.
I know about the water.
You're hired.
So, to provide the relative comparison, modules 4 and 6 had one slope on one end that had this water coming into the work area. What they were able to do for the other direction, or the other side, was install a cutoff trench, an actual trench between the water and the module to intercept the water that was coming into the side from the other direction. That interceptor channel existed before we built module 6. And after we built module 6, we moved it over into the module 7 area. The difference with module 7, you can't move it any farther. Module 7's at one end of the landfill. And so that presented multi slopes with with a much larger area being exposed, getting that having that subdrain water come into it. So it's by volume, it's a lot of area to manage water. And it resulted in instability that had not been experienced for modules 4 and 6 in those much smaller areas. So it's certainly when there is that end condition, which there will be the end condition as the landfill turns to the right and then back to the left on those two different sides to the south, this same condition will exist there. Modules 8 and 9, that the interceptor trench, there's room to put the interceptor trench in there. So it's not likely to be experienced for modules 8 and 9.
So what was the surprise for this and therefore the change order? I mean, you knew there was going to be water there. Is there more water than expected? What?
Well, there's a list of reasons why the change orders were made. One of those reasons was the damage that water had, that the subterranean water had as it exited the slope. It destabilized the soil in places, and that it was carried away as sediment, and there was tunnels and caves, and you can't have tunnels and caves below your waste system. That was one of the reasons.
So it was unexpected. The flow of groundwater, you described it as being much more than was experienced previously. But you don't think it's going to, in fact, and then looking in the future, you're thinking that groundwater's not going to be present in or in those quantities in the other modules 8, 9, or 10. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
With this experience, we should be.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the modules 8 and 9 will be an experience like 4 and 6 because there's ability to put the interceptor trench in. The interceptor trench is a separate temporary feature that separates the module area from where the water is. And so that's the mitigation to be able to construct modules 8 and 9. Well, the modules that are on the perimeter that have yet to be built are going to be experiencing the same subterranean conditions as module 7 is. You know, it exists in the dune, terrace dune here. We're just not going to experience module 7 like configuration until we build those end modules again.
So I'm expecting that the costs for the future modules will take into account these additional actions
Yes.
to handle
Yes.
groundwater.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
But you anticipated a couple of years ago that you would have those costs in when you put this new proposal together. So to make assumption that the ones going forward are going to have all the costs, maybe there's $3 or $4 million sitting out there that we're not quite sure of other type things until we dig around in the dirt and so forth. I mean, just because we're a little bit smarter doesn't mean we're really smart.
I think what Mayor Peak and Director McKee are delivering the message is how do we get some of these anticipated costs written into the agreement in advance, that they may be unforeseen items in the delivery of.
Because we're 60%, costs are up 60% overruns. These aren't little overruns. When you're making up numbers, when you're off by 60%, you know. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's talk more about this in the next agenda item. I think we're done, right? Receiving this. Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's move on to 7G, authorize module 7 phase 3 subdrain leachate management systems change order requests.
Good morning again, and I just want to thank Guy for teeing off the project as if it's not known, this is probably his second to last board meeting with us. So since we're skipping August, get your autograph page out now. Change order. There we go. And that has something to do with why we're doing this handoff the way we are. Guys telling you where we've been, and I'm doing the transition as part of the plan. He's handling the stuff that's the past stuff, and I'm taking on the newer stuff. And really grateful to Guy. My screen is on. Really grateful to Guy for not only mentoring me over these years, but just being a wealth of knowledge, I think, for the entire organization. It's really, the organizations really benefit from having him here. So I just want to say that. So everything goes well. Okay. So we're going to continue talking about module 7, and this element of the project is something that was known to need to be developed or need to be constructed. And the reason we're coming to you with the change order now is because we're adding it to the construction contract of the current contractor that's on site. To start off, we'll start off with a little bit of landfill 101. You guys did a great job earlier asking questions, and I hope that this kind of solidifies what you guys were talking about earlier. As Guy mentioned, we have the engineered alternative design liner system, which is this kind of lasagna looking deal here. And the way it works is the upper layer is the operations layer, and that's meant to protect the liner so that when we drive on it, when we put trash on it, the systems underneath are protected. This LCRS drainage layer is called the leachate collection and recovery system layer, and its job is to collect the leachate and convey it. Then you have our double liner system, which is the engineered alternative design. And that double liner is there to separate the waste materials from groundwater. And then we have subgrade, which we actually have a number of subdrain pipes. You saw Guy show those photos with the gravel trench and the pipe. Well, those pipes are underneath the liner system to get the water out. Once that's built, we build the trash on top. And to Mayor Delgado's point, it's not something that's at the surface. This layer eventually is going to be hundreds of feet deep below the ground. And that trash is going to be built on top of it. Something that occurs when you put trash in the landfill is it already has an innate liquid moisture content, and that moisture then percolates through the trash and into this leachate collection layer. And then that leachate collection layer conveys the leachate to the leachate collection and removal system risers. At the same time, you have your subdrain waters, which are being conveyed out from underneath the liner. So what we're talking about is the systems that are going to be installed to handle these waters, which you were referring to earlier. Part of the landfill design includes a riser, which is a very large pipe that comes out from underneath the lining system or underneath the trash. And it's two systems. It's the subdrain water, which is below the liner, and it's also the leachate system, which is inside the trash. And kind of a similar model here. We have the trash, which conveys the leachate, and then you have your subdrain waters, which are conveyed in the pipes. And then both those waters are pumped up to the top in separate pipes. They're not commingled. That's very important, obviously, to keep the water quality pristine.
Quick question.
Yeah.
David, the weight of the trash earlier was, we were told, it can cause problems on vertical pipes, so all that horizontal infrastructure, is it affected by the pressure from above?
It's designed to handle that pressure. So both the liner system that's underneath it is tested. Both in the lab before it arrives here and when it's here, the materials are tested to make sure they can handle the stress that's gonna be posed to them. And also the piping system is an upgraded sized pipe. Compared to what you would have in a water system or a sewer system. So it's designed with all this stuff in mind. The scope of work that this change order request includes the pumping systems and also the site development that's required to handle the leachate. And so in this squiggly drawing here, you have the material recovery facility, and then we have a road that goes around the material recovery facility. These circles are tanks where the leachate gets pumped up and into and stored so that it can be off-hauled. And then we have the roads and infrastructure leading up to those loadout areas. And that's where our trucks will come in and unload the water.
And this would be the $10 to $20 million fix to send it, to pipe it over to M1 Water.
That's separate than this topic. Yeah. But right now what we do is, this leachate is gonna get pumped up to the tanks, and then following my color system, the blue is the subdrain water. And that subdrain water is gonna get sent to storage ponds that we have, surface storage ponds that we have on site, and then released into the neighboring river. And another question that was asked before, where does the leachate go? And what we do with the leachate after we collect it from the tanks is it's evaporated by applying it to the surface of the lined areas of the landfill. So it's used as a dust control on the lined areas. And that's how we manage it.
David, quick question.
Yeah.
How much leachate do you accumulate? What kind of volume are you talking about?
It depends on the season and each one of our landfill systems that have a liner generate different amounts of leachate. If in this model, we're putting 3 tanks in. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's a daily management element. So there's a staff person whose job it is to go to all these different leachate location areas and collect and dispose of the leachate. So we're constantly managing leachate all day long, multiple water trucks. So it's the shallower the landfill liner, the more likely you're gonna have rain impacts. The older the landfill, you're gonna have it's bigger area, more waste. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry to give you it depends answer,
yeah,
but
got it. Okay, thank you.
it depends on module.
Mhm.
The other element that included in the site design is also electricity. We gotta bring the power to these pumps to be able to get that water up and out from underneath from the liner system. And the new electrical line that we're planning is gonna be through the material recovery facility. We're gonna interrupt the party that's going on in there for a couple of days, but we're gonna be putting in new conduits through the MRF, and then bringing those electrical lines across the road to the loadout area, which is down here. There's pumps, submersible pumps that need to be installed, and that's included in this amount. And then there's also the tanks that are gonna be storing the leachate. These are double walled tanks. It's a tank inside of a tank in case there's a leak. We wanna make sure that leachate doesn't escape into the environment. So you see on the left-hand side, the tank being placed inside of another tank. This is part of the system being installed. You see the liner that Guy was showing you earlier. There's these risers that come up the slopes, and the pumps are slid down these risers to get down into the sumps. So on the left-hand side where the blue pipes are, that's the sump for the subdrain. And this is during construction, so the subdrain risers are in. There's gonna be an identical system for the leachate, once the liner is up to grade. And here is a example of what the tanks look like when installed. This is the system for module 6. You see the riser, which kind of pokes up here. Then the two tanks, in this case, the electrical systems. And then behind it, and I apologize for not having a really good photo, but there's a J stand, we call it a J stand, upside down J. So the truck can drive underneath. And then they turn on a pump and it loads the water tank with the leachate. And then from there, they take it and dispose of it on the landfill. This, as I mentioned, is a known element that we had already budgeted and planned for in the project, and we're asking to add the change order to the existing contractor's scope of work. And we held off on doing the full design once we hit the issue with the design build. We wanted to make sure it was in the right place, right size, and we weren't going to have any more problems. So we have this coming to you now. Yes, sir.
The addition is $1.5 million.
Yes.
Is there a reserve in there for the unknown?
Yes.
These are all specific things.
These are, there is some as a whole in the project. You saw that guy mentioned the budget being 7 million, around 7 million. So,
You're the new holder of this going forward.
right.
Next month, 4 months from now, are we gonna get another change order? Or is this gonna handle everything going forward?
It's going to have, it's hard to say at this point if I'm not gonna come to a change order. I think there are still some elements that are in the back of my mind that I want to get.
Should you have a line there called reserve for future change orders, so we have an idea that 12/8 is really gonna be 14?
Yeah, and here, as a project as a whole,
No,
that's in
that's
there.
prior slide, you have 12.872,
Right,
409, pretty exact number.
right.
But there's no estimate in there for future change orders.
And it's important to remember this is for this specific approval item. And so this is not a budget.
I'm not talking budget, I'm talking estimated cost.
Yeah, so the authorization is a specific amount.
I'm being very specific.
Yeah.
Do you have a reserve in here for future cost changes that aren't listed?
I do have that in the overall project budget, yes.
Why don't you put it right here in phase 3, say there's another $1 million down the road, so we have an idea that it's gonna be 14, not 12.872.
Yeah, and that's a good point. What we're showing here is the specific change order for this specific contractor for a specific amount. And
I'm
so
saying, give me a line item, tell me how much I'm gonna spend.
I have that on the next slide as a whole project budget, so I think we may be going in a circle on my end.
I'll wait and go ahead.
So, this specific change order is gonna be modifying the contract amount for the existing contractor by, $1.5 million, bringing their contract to $12,800,000 roughly. But as a project whole, the budget that, or the expenditures that we expect for this 24-25 budget are around $6.8 million.
Okay, then the 12.872 is higher, but it's just gonna go up. Is the 12.872 gonna get bigger? Are you gonna come back and ask us for money? He's gone, you're here. Next month, you're asking for more money.
It's possible, yes.
Can we have a reserve so we have an idea of what we're gonna spend?
Yeah, it's here. So I'm not sure
So
how
we can look
to,
at
how to answer your question.
6, 8, and 7, 5, those are final numbers.
Guys.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Director McKee is asking for an estimate of projected final expenditures.
I'm asking, are you gonna come in every month and ask us for more money or more change orders?
Well, that would be included in to reach the projected final expenditures.
No, I'm asking, is engineering gonna come in here every month and say, we're gonna cost more, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go up? Or is this final?
This is not
On a
final.
point of order, the chair recognizes who speaks. Let's conform to the norm, please.
Guy-
Tell me what the norm is.
Director McKee, just let Guy explain. Let's let him finish his explanation.
This, as I understand Director McKee's interest, he is interested in content that's beyond this change order on other items that might have additional expenditures. Those aren't listed here. They, to his interest, they would need to be listed here to show what the projected final cost estimate is for the entire project. It is less than what's budgeted this year, but it does not answer his specific question.
So in other words, there's a possibility that we are within budget for what we've budgeted for this
Correct.
next year, for this module. We're gonna finish this module in this budget year.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
So, we very well may have some additional change orders that are still within the budget that we have for module 7. I suppose there's also a possibility that you could come back with other change orders that go beyond what we've budgeted, but,
Correct, it's an
Unclear.
in process project.
right.
And I hear you wanting to have a definitive number, on the total project costs at this time. However, a project this size and of this scope, it's difficult for me to give that definitive of an answer.
Director McKee,
Is it all right to talk? I'm not sure the order of talking.
now you may talk.
We have bonds out there. We have to pay off our bonds. If we're gonna add another $5-10 million that's not listed, does that affect our bond rating, our cash flow, et cetera? So we're spending money here and it's up. How does this affect our long-term, viability, et cetera?
We've budgeted, these numbers are budgeted in.
Director McKee, let David finish.
The important, I think the key point here is that these are budgeted expenses that are within the overall overarching revenue and expense categories, which are anticipated as costs. So the ReGen budget is also reflected in how that rating is attained and how our financials are evaluated.
I'd like to ask the finance side of the house, do we have enough cash flow, money and so forth to pay our monthly bonds and so forth
Well,
as
I
we
think-
do stuff?
I think for this agenda item,
This one agenda may not do it, but the one that comes up next month with another million, are we jeopardizing as we go forward?
Mayor Peak.
I understand the concern from, Director McKee. And perhaps at a later time, they could be addressed, but that's not the agenda item before us right now.
I agree with you, Director Peak. Yes.
Just one comment, so fully understand the position of knowing the overall project dollar amount, we'll get with staff, and in the numbers. For this fiscal year 24-25, there is a $1.2 million over projection for this project, so if we did come back and we didn't exceed the $1.2 million, we would still be within our budget, so that's a little bit of reassurance for Director McKee on coming back with another change order. We have $1.2 million designated as extra funding in the budget in comparison to the actual cost that's projected for this year. We will get the total cost of projections for the full project. I think it was showing trending at 13 million. We will look at other items that could impact that number, and then we'll come back to the board and report back out. If that's okay with the board.
Bruce.
Just briefly on this discussion, I'm getting a little confused with cost, so in the future, it would be nice to know what was the original total project cost estimate? How much are we spending foreseeable? And, I think that would be helpful.
Understood.
Okay. Thank you, David. Let's take this out to the public. Are there any public comments on this agenda item? Any online item? No. Okay, we'll bring it back. And I'll call for a motion, please.
Move to approve.
All right, thank you,
Second.
Bruce. Second for Director Peak. Yes, brief comment.
My brief comment for discussion is, it does seem, uncomfortable that the original project cost may be much exceeded by the final project cost.
Is that the nature of a design build?
It's, what occurs in a design build, is when there's something in a project where you need to see what's happening before you make a design or, determine how you're gonna approach it. You kind of open up things, take a look, make the design and fit it in. And so in this instance, the plans and specs needed to be vetted earlier on so that the costs could be known. This isn't necessarily, to your point, these aren't necessarily costs that would not have been incurred. They're costs that were not budgeted ahead of time, and there is some extra costs for being in the design build approach where things are unknown, but the level of liner design and the infrastructure that's needed to build the project is that there's a lot of elements in there that should be known going forward that we're gonna need, so we can do a better job of budgeting out that these costs are included to include a full accounting of what we should expect.
Second question, final question. When I see change order, I think, oops, should I not have that perspective?
From a perspective of, should we have known about these costs ahead of time? There's probably some validity to that of these costs should have been known up at the budgeting part of it. However, there's still costs that are needed, and I could throw a number saying we're spending 10 to 15% more for those items because they're happening through this design build project, but the cost elements still would be present whether they were known ahead of time or known after.
I mean, the fact that we're still within the budget leads me to believe that you thought, obviously, that this project would cost.
We were anticipating as we were building the budget.
Right.
As we were going.
Right. Okay. Oh, yes.
Good discussion. I would suggest that the staff bring back the summary that touches on the various topics that the board has raised. And possibly even maybe a plan on a tour of module 7 at the next board meeting.
Maybe do white paper.
The Bruce is gonna write. Or edit. Okay. Thank you, David. All super fascinating.
And I have one last comment.
Yes.
And one thing that we have to recognize is we don't make these changes as they're being requested with the contractor that we had selected to the process. What happens is it essentially will stop the project. It'll stop the demobilization of the equipment, thus raising our cost of our project even more significantly than getting the change orders through the same selected organization that has come in to do the work. Because if we stop and pause, they have to demobilize, reship equipment out, and we inherit those costs along the way. So I think it's just a point of recognizing that when change orders come in on these sorts of projects, we want to get them in as fast as possible so that we don't stop the process of work and the mobilization of equipment and people that are working on the project. It was just one last point that I think is very important for us to take away. Thank you, David, David, Guy, I really appreciate it. This was a very technical item that deserves the attention that we gave to it. So thank you, everybody, for your feedback, and we will come back with the summary. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, our next item, 7H, is something that we're gonna be considering during closed session, but I would like to take public comment on it right now. It's consider adjustment to the compensation of the general manager with approval of related pay schedule effective July 1st. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Any public comments on this item? Doing the boardroom or online? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comments. And we'll move on to staff reports. That's 8A, review finance, operating and recycling reports. All right.
Good morning, board members. We have finished fiscal 24 and the numbers we have compiled so far are unaudited numbers. And there will be undoubtedly some small changes as we finish closing up the year and collecting all the relevant documents for fiscal 24. In any case, our revenue for fiscal 24 total was 51.8 million. We were slightly ahead of budget. And that over budget on the revenue side has got various components in there. We were under budget on our tip fee revenue by about $1.5 million. We were under on our power revenue by about $1.4 million. However, the MRF had a very good year and they were over by 3.3 million, and which is reflective of our strong commodity prices that we've been seeing in fiscal 24. The down on the power revenue was reflective of the fact we had a number of repair issues and we had a number of power outages, meaning we were unable to generate power because PG&E called us and said, we're going to be working on our equipment, so you have to shut down while we're doing that. So that impacts our revenue from the power. Employment costs were pretty close to budget at about 18.6 million. On the non-employment costs, there were a couple of items that stand out there. We're about 5.5 million over in total, but we've got a few items such as environmental services, and that has primarily to do with the landfill gas, maintenance, repairs. And since we had higher maintenance and repair costs in there, that also impacted our power revenue generated in fiscal 24. Our in outside services costs, our recycling services rather, the biggest part of that is the money that goes to pay for the material that Keith Day processes. And that also includes the costs that we have to haul our MRF material, to the ports or whatever. So there's a lot of transportation costs in that recycling services number. Our repairs and maintenance costs were about 977 million over budget. The biggest single item in there is we had a major schedule of maintenance on a compactor, which we had budgeted $150,000 for in the budget. However, the final cost came in at $655,000. And that is because a decision was made as they were getting ready to do the maintenance on this equipment. It was like, well, maybe we should do more than what we originally thought we were going to do, which obviously we did. So the cost on that, but now considering a new compactor costs $1.5 to $2 million, it was a worthwhile expenditure to spend that much money to make sure the equipment is in the good running condition. Our net income for the year came in at about 5 million. We were about 3.5 million under plan for the year. And we'll hopefully make that up going forward next in this fiscal year. In terms of material volume received was about 962,000 tons for the year, which is down from a million tons in fiscal 23. And the biggest single item of that difference is the fact that we received about 32,000 tons less of ADC in fiscal 24 than we did in fiscal 23. The other material items received are fairly comparable from year to year. Our MSW total, was pretty similar in fiscal 24 as it was in fiscal 23. Our diversion percentage continues to be around 63%. Looking at a rolling 12-month average. And that's say pretty consistent with what it's been. terms of our financial position, we actually consumed about $5.8 million of cash, meaning our cash balance went down by that much in fiscal 24. And, we'll see what happens going forward, but, based on some of the items that we talked about during the budgeting process, and this last item we talked about on the module developments, it's possible we may see our cash balance, go down again. So that's a quick summary of where we are in fiscal 24. Any questions? I'd be happy to take them.
Bruce.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because I thought you said that in fiscal year 25, you hope to make up for the shortage of net income in 24. But then you said that you expect cash flow to dip even further in 25.
Well, okay, so without getting too much into the accounting weeds here, the income number and the cash number are two kind of separate animals. So a lot of our cash consumed in fiscal 24 was for capital spend items. So that's not impacting the income statement. And we have a fairly large capital spend plan in fiscal 25 and actually going out for, the next 5 years. So, again, those don't impact the operations. Those are items that get put on the balance sheet and depreciated.
So do you have expectations that in FY 25, we're gonna make up for the net income shortage that was more than planned in FY 24?
Well, as I stand here on July 19th, I would probably say no, as we, right now.
Well, I thought you said you hope to make
But
it.
I hope to make it, it would be good, but, but it's contingent on various things. It's, first of all, is the MRF gonna continue being able to sell product at the same prices that they had been in fiscal 24? And, we don't have control over that particular item. So, is our power generation gonna pick up? Are we gonna get past some of these repair and maintenance issues that we had in fiscal 24? Are we gonna have less power outages because PG&E is doing work on their equipment? Those are all kind of unknowns.
So if your hopes come true, we'll have a FY 25 that's as budgeted, but it's not gonna make up for what we lost in FY 24.
No, I think what we lost in F24, that's gone.
Okay, thank you, clarifying.
Thank you as usual for the report and great summary. In terms of financial planning, hope is always a desire, but shouldn't be part of our financial plan. And I appreciate you being honest about the projection of cash balance going forward. My visual is seeing a yellow caution light when we look down the road on district finances. And we need to be careful.
So is that something that finance committee can discuss, the caution yellow?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
All right, any other questions? I would say with the landfill gas, I would hope that since we've done all of these, fixes on our equipment and hopefully we get to a place where our equipment is functioning and the only reason we're not making money off of the landfill gas system is because of PG&E shutting us down, right? I would hope that we could get to a better place where we could.
Good, Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to comment, we are looking at, how do we develop, that position for landfill gas management, which we're losing a tremendous amount of support in Director Petrobor. How do we couple that gas management with our landfilling operation and with our LNG plant to get the desired outcomes? One of them you'll hear in the general manager comments is the LOCI system that we're piloting right now. It's 18 well monitoring systems that we can monitor for one location. Get more gas means more production. Get the right type of gas means less breakdowns. We had $1.5 million in related issues with our LNG system throughout that term. So what we need to do is figure out the type of gas and quality of it, the amount of it, and then we also have opportunities with what do we do long-term wise with our gas opportunity? Is that gonna go into a natural pipeline? Is it a different system that we can use? The CNG an opportunity, and then revisiting some of our study of what were our opportunities with our byproducts that we're creating here. So I think there's a little bit of that, and then we have also contract opportunities, and then we have contracts that are being renewed at a higher rate that will help us with some of the changes, and then managing our cost. You know, I think that was a difficult feat when we came out. We've seen extraordinary fuel costs go up, and then the cost to get parts and the time to get parts, all of those impacting our efficiency and our position on creating revenue when those have been unforeseen coming out of the COVID pandemic and then getting into a slight recession of economics. So continuing to monitor, and I think the finance committee is a perfect opportunity for us to discuss where are we gonna change, and then to Bruce's point is, you know, some of those policies, and to Director Pete's is though some of those policies are very old, and we got to really look at the board position on how we're going to track and navigate through some of our business opportunities that will lie in front of us for the next, I would say, probably the next decade. As we approach 2036, there is going to be some timelines that we have to recognize that are significant. 2030, with the franchise agreements expiring for the member agencies, 7 or 8 of the member agencies, and then you also have the 2036, where we would like to off-ramp on preferred cost for our landfill usage, and maybe already have some on-ramp features to replace some of that volume. So I think there is concepts behind it, but I believe we can continue to look at what the future is going to hold for us, not only what's coming in the 24-25 fiscal year, but what's going to hold for us in a 10-year term. I appreciate all the feedback from the board.
Thank
Can I
you,
ask a
Felipe.
question?
Here.
In anticipation of the removal of the biosolids and the compostables from the landfill, I would assume that the gas production may decrease.
That's incorrect.
If
It's incorrect. Yeah, when we went to the feasibility study, because of the amount of the volume that's within the landfill, we're gonna still see continued gas elements increase over some of the term in the near future. I'm not sure exactly how much, but it is destined to increase our gas production.
So the gas production will continue to increase
Yes.
even though we're not putting as much in there that's creating the gas.
Yes,
I was leading into, I see an awful lot of flat roofs. Do we ever contemplate solar?
yes,
That has been contemplated in the past.
yes. It was an item that we projected into the feasibility. It didn't come out as one of the preferred items. But if we did go solar, it would be on all the rooftops. You're exactly correct.
Okay, so that's something that's out there in case we need it.
Yes,
Have we ever contemplated wind power?
yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other
Looking
financial?
at expenses and revenues as some things change, what other things we could look
Yeah,
at?
and I think, you know, the challenge with just bringing on different systems is the procurement piece of capital to procure them. Or I'm not gonna be able to do many of these straight through the gate rate and through our existing budgeting processes. So grant opportunities, and then also working with partners to come in and you know, pick up some of the bill on some of the projects that we could anticipate that would live here at ReGen in the future.
I just didn't know if in the past that had been contemplated and if it lays out there in case, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Garth.
Problem.
Appreciate it. All right, 8B, the TAC SB 1383 update. Zoe.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Zoe Schultz, Director of Communications. I'll give a very brief update of our meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee that was held on June 12th. Generally, our Technical Advisory Committee over the last 4 or so years has met virtually over Zoom. We've increased our meetings to once a month. Previously, they were quarterly, but Zoom tends to be the best format for our group because there's about 30 or so people that come together and we're most efficient that way. However, on June 12th, we met in person. We find that good to do from time to time. And we had two really great occasions to come together for. One of them was the celebration of General Manager Mike Nickham's retirement from Pebble Beach Community Services District, as we presented last month at our board. He was a great resource for our agency and really plugged into solid waste issues on behalf of the entire region, really. So it gave a chance for staff in the haulers to reflect on his service as well, including serving as the first chair of our TAC. And then the majority of the time spent was to have a tour for our for our TAC members of the material recovery facility. We've had quite a bit of new members joining our TAC over the last few years, and we like to spend about 2 times a year at a particular location here on site and really do a deep dive. So this time we decided that the MRF was the best location to tour. And Eric Palmer from our communications team gave an excellent tour, gave a chance for staff to ask technical questions about recycling and see the process in operation. Happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Thank you, Zoe. Any questions? No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll go on to number 9, other correspondence, which we don't have. So we'll move on to 10, general manager communication.
Yeah, I have a few communications today, so thank you, Chair. The first one is that we had Leadership Monterey, class 2024 toured ReGen's dual screen MRF, and also visited our pilot location on the biochar. The facilitator, Mitchell Friedman, said, thank you so much. It continues to be a highlight for the Leadership Monterey class that continues to circulate through. We had various members. We had Monterey County CAO attend our leadership demonstration through the facility. We had other members of the community, also high level leaders that represent the area. We're very excited to continue to support the Leadership Monterey County class coming through and facilitating the tour through the area. If you haven't gone through it, it's a very good class and it gets you fundamentally set up with networking and what's going on within our county area. Second item I have is ReGen battery hazard videos currently airing on KSBW. You'll see it through the Olympics. You'll see it through social media. You might have seen it on YouTube. We shared the video here with our team. The community has started sharing they've seen the video and it's curbing habits and behaviors. So we're very excited to see the outcomes that are coming from the video. Again, I want to thank staff for all the support to get the video shoot going and getting it online and getting it on television. So you may see it in different areas. And some of the staff is getting phone calls from family members saying, hey, I got to see you on TV. You did a really good job. And, we didn't need no actors to get the video shoot completed. A tour of the landfill gas to energy plant. And again, the Cedos biochar pilot study was conducted on Tuesday, July 2nd. We had many representatives from the county of Santa Cruz. The county also operates an LFG plant and has desires to operate and run their plant with their own staff. Currently, they're using a third party to operate their plant. And they also wanted to explore the interest around biochar to address woody materials and the green waste stream as well. We had several of the personnel attending the tour, including Caroline Burke. She's the Assistant Director of Community Development and Infrastructure. We had Casey Kalesa, who's the Recycling and Solid Waste Services Manager for the Community Development and Infrastructure. We had Darcy Pruitt, Resource Planner for Recycling and Solid Waste, Community Development and Infrastructure. Brian Fontes, Environmental Programs Coordinator, and Greg Harden, all of them from the Recycling and Solid Waste Community Development and Infrastructure team from Santa Cruz County. So it was a great visit. They had a lot of interest. I think we're further ahead on some of the items that they want to be touching on. So they want to learn through our experiences, hear what we're going through and what are some of the challenges with operating and functioning some of these operations internally through their own organization. As I mentioned earlier, the first month of the 12-month pilot study for the automated LFG wells have been completed. Staff conducted a review of the first month's performance with the representatives from the low side controls. The early takeaways are that the equipment on each of the 18 test wells are operating properly. and that the user interface dashboard was easily accessible, user-friendly, and quickly connects the users to specific information. In the past, we had to go to every land wellhead, run tests on it and try to coordinate, is it production, is it bad production, good quality, bad quality? So we see a very bright future with this system to manage it, from your desktop, and really just have to go out and entertain the ones that are not performing well and avoid all the checks on items that may be functioning correctly. So we're very excited with that. We'd also like to see a reduction in the fugitive emissions from the landfill surface. It could give us more gas. At the end of the day, 5 to 10% more gas going through the energy plant, thus giving us more dollars into the revenue stream. So we're very excited. I think it's a huge opportunity. And again, I'd like to thank the engineering team to bring items like this of innovation and also the technology that we have in the current era. And we're going away from older technologies and older practices. And we've done that over the last 2.5 years with GPS systems for our compaction and how that's working. So this is just another added tool that can reduce the amount of effort to get better quality outcomes for our operation. Last item I attended the special districts on Tuesday, July 16th. We had a special speaker, Sonia De La Rosa, CAO of Monterey County. She presented challenges that the county is facing, obstacles, and then ways to maneuver in opportunities and who you can meet with and make those arrangements with. So if we have any of those opportunities that exist, I'd be happy to take those forward directly to the CAO. She made herself extremely available. And those include my general manager comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Felipe. All right, we'll move on to board communications. Do we have any board communications? Bruce?
Yeah, I was driving to work today. I was going here today, not to work. I was driving here today and there was a truck full of garbage, like a contracting, not a green waste, but a private truck. It had a tarp over it. So it looked great. And a huge cardboard box flew out on the way here. And then other things were flying out on the way here. So when you drive down Monte Boulevard to get here, you see a lot of blow by or blow off. And the volunteers collect it every month. And then staff picks it up every month, in addition to the intentional dumping. So I just want to say that the presence of a landfill impacts the neighborhood. That's an example. And we're doing our best to clean it up so it doesn't look awful. And I just want to say thank you to ReGen for being part of the team that's doing that. Otherwise, it would look much worse when you get closer to the landfill than it does now.
Great.
Can I chime in on that? I appreciate the effort from the Citizens for Sustainable Marina to come out and perform that extra work for us. Our team goes out and reviews regularly to try to see that happen. 2 days ago, I was driving in. A woman lost almost all her stuff on the side of the road. I had to actually literally put on my signal light to give her an opportunity to pick up the item. So, in some cases, people want to do the right thing and pick them up. And in some cases, that's extremely difficult to do as well, knowing that the safety comes in, risk factor comes in, and then people speeding through that little corridor causes some challenges as well. So I appreciate the effort on both sides to keep our roads clean. So thank you, Mayor Delgado.
Another thing I want to mention is that we're going to do a food forest in Marina. So I'd like to talk to staff about the biochar potential to get some biochar underground before we grow those trees and other food plants. I think that'd be a great public project. And lastly, I appreciate that ReGen is starting to get highlights out from our meetings because other organizations do that too. And maybe we can continue to work on that so it's more interest to the people to find out what we're doing, so we're not so hidden to the general public as far as what we do here.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move into closed session. We have next. So Rob, would you like to read this into closed session?
Yes, you're having a closed session with regard to representation on which the board of directors is the executives and the unrepresented personnel is the general manager. So you're certainly entitled in your closed session to initially, if you wish to have the general manager join you in case you have any questions. And you also have the opportunity then to have the rest of the meeting, if you wish, without the general manager. Now, relative to any action you might take, as indicated on the agenda, having to do with compensation, you can only take that action in open session after you come back out of open session, the closed session. That's
Okay.
all.
Thank you, Rob. All right, we move into closed session. Oh,
Board is returned from closed session, and I'll give a short report on that closed session after we take up the next agenda item, which is returning to the agenda for item 7H, which is to consider an adjustment of the compensation of the general manager with approval of related pay schedule effective July 1, 2024. So at this point, a motion to do that, and we can recite what the increase would be appropriate.
thank you.
I can make that motion. I don't know if we have to exactly say what the stipulations are. I can't remember.
We should say that the compensation increase would be a total of 8.3%.
Okay.
8.8.
8.8.
Oh, wait, excuse me, 8.8.
Sorry, Felipe.
8.8, yes, correct, I'm sorry, misspoke.
So
Yes,
we've
And
got,
that was my motion.
okay, we have a
You
motion.
seconded it,
Second.
Okay,
and so we're done.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no? All right, motion
Motion carries.
passes.
Okay, and then as far as the closed session report, I would report that the board met this afternoon on the matter listed on the agenda for the closed session, which was labor negotiations with an unrepresented employee, and that was the district general manager. So action was taken, no action was taken in the closed session. However, board came back in open session and dealt with that matter.
All right,
That's my whole report.
Sounds good.
thank you, Bob. All right, I'd like to adjourn this meeting. We do not have a meeting in August, but we have one, so we'll see you September 20th.